Nothing in this podcast or on our website should be construed as medical advice. Consult your healthcare provider for your individual nutritional and medical needs. The information presented is based on our research and is strictly that of the author and not necessarily those of any professional group or other individual.
Hi, I'm Sue Becker from Bread Beckers. Welcome to Sue's Healthy Minutes. I'm so excited you've joined me today, and I hope this episode encourages you and allows you to find the answers you have been praying for the health of you and your family. Today on Sue's Healthy Minutes, I want to share a personal story with you. You have probably all heard the saying, necessity is the mother of invention. Well, I can tell you from my recent experience, that is a very true statement. And looking a little further into this saying, it describes necessity as when the need for something becomes imperative. You are forced to find ways of getting or achieving it. And that is exactly how my story goes. It's definitely a very personal story and maybe a little TMI, but it has to be told. If you have been listening over the past few weeks, you know that my husband Brad and I traveled to Tanzania for a mission trip. The trip was wonderful and very productive. I was a guest speaker at a women's conference at Christ Laborers Church in Vihiga, Tanzania. I shared 10 messages that the Lord had put on my heart over the course of 4 days. We also checked on the bakery that we had helped establish in 2021 at the Potter Center of Christ Laborers Church. And I did a nutritional presentation on whole grains and real bread for the staff and bakery workers who are now more committed than ever to using only freshly milled whole grain flour in the bread they are baking. Brad was able to build 4 sets of cornhole boards for the absolute fun and enjoyment of these hardworking men and women. It was such a blessing to see them all having so much fun together, young and old, men and women alike. We were then able to go and support our pastor as he preached an evangelistic crusade in the small remote village of Montepwili, Tanzania. It was a place I had visited before and was excited to go back. It was a glorious trip, to say the least. However, while there, I developed severe dysentery. I have never contracted anything this severe in all my travels with ministry, but this was quite debilitating. Thankfully, our pastor, who had preached a 4-day crusade the week before Brad and I arrived in Tanzania, decided that we all needed to get some good rest before going into the very small village of Montepwili, where the next crusade was to be held. While our accommodations for the week in Vihiga were adequate, it was decided that we would move to a nicer hotel closer to Montepwili with hot running water, a Western toilet, air conditioning, and a very comfy bed for a few days. I cannot tell you what a blessing this was for me. By this time, I could not leave the room or be away from a bathroom for more than a few minutes, and all I wanted to do was sleep. After 3 days of this, I was completely dehydrated and weary, and I realized that I had indeed acquired some kind of infection and medicine was necessary. Thankfully, one of the staff was medically trained and knew exactly what I needed. Within 24 hours and 3 doses of the medicine, all symptoms had stopped, and I gradually felt better and better. And I was finally able to join the rest of the team at the crusade in Montepwili. The crusade, like I said, was being held in the very remote village of Montepwili, at least 3 or 4 hours off of a paved road and from anything advanced. The accommodations there were very primitive, to put it mildly, but God was with us. I was feeling better and better with the medicine, except that with each dose I took, I seemed to be having an allergic reaction, lips and tongues tingling, and some heaviness in my chest. Now, I know to treat infection, you need to continue the medication for so many days and not stop taking it just because you've gotten relief from the symptoms. But we were headed into the bush, far away from any sort of medical treatment, and the allergic reactions had me a bit concerned. So I stopped the medication, but all was well. For the entire time we were in this village and for the remainder of our trip, I felt better and better until we returned home. Once home, struggling with fatigue and jet lag and a 7-hour time difference, the symptoms of a parasite or some type of amoebic infection returned. Then, with our immune systems challenged, 3 days after getting home, Brad and I both came down with flu-like symptoms that sent us to bed for 3 days. The fatigue was real. In fact, we have still not gotten 100% of our energy back, and it's been more than 3 weeks now. Brad bounced back a little more quickly than me, as I was now dealing with a full-blown intestinal infection of some kind, with a low-grade fever, nausea, severe dysentery, which caused excruciatingly painful and bleeding hemorrhoids with every bowel movement. I know this is TMI, but I need to share the severity of the situation I was dealing with so that you better understand the extreme necessity of finding a solution. My functional medicine doctor called in a prescription for a compounded medicine to treat the infection, as well as a compounded cream to treat the pain of the hemorrhoids. It was supposed to be highly effective cream, but after more than a week, I was still not getting any relief. The pain was agonizing, and the intermittent fevers and flu-like symptoms and severe dysentery became more and more concerning. After 10 days of this pain, bleeding, and fever, I was desperate. Through a conversation with my friend and the wonderful podcast producer, Tiffany Thompson, I discovered an answer that was right in front of me all the time. Tiffany mentioned that when she travels, she seems to pick up a parasite that always causes the same symptoms that I was having. She mentioned that she used food-grade diatomaceous earth internally and that it resolved the pain and symptoms very quickly. Well, I was desperate and willing to try anything, but I had no diatomaceous earth on hand. But what I did have was Redmond Bentonite Clay. Now, I don't believe any home should be without it for use on burns, cuts, abrasions, bug bites, and stings, and such skin irritations as poison ivy. Now, I never travel without clay, and I use it in small amounts to help with nausea and mild diarrhea when the need arises, but I had not thought of using it more deliberately and for such a severe condition. Then I remembered from my studies of clay and a teaching that a representative from Redmond had done at Becker's years ago that bentonite clay has some pretty powerful detoxifying and gut healing properties when taken internally. I looked up information on how much to take, and I went immediately and mixed a half a teaspoon of Redmond bentonite clay in about a half a cup of water. I put it in a jar so I could shake it really well to get it mixed into the water, and I drank it down. About 6 hours later, I had my first relatively pain-free normal bowel movement in 2 weeks. I was overjoyed, to say the least, to get so much relief so quickly from just one dose. But I later learned, as I will share, that this is a pretty common result. With this daily dose then, continued for 1 week, things progressively improved and returned to normal. Now I was intrigued. And with those who know me, you might know what that means. I had to do some research into this almost miraculous improvement. First, let's talk about what is bentonite clay and what is the science behind its powerful detoxifying and healing benefits. Bentonite clay is a type of clay formed from volcanic ash and seawater. It gets its name from Fort Benton, Wyoming, where it is found in abundance. In fact, Wyoming leads the nation in the production of bentonite clay and has 70% of the world's known deposits. Bentonite clay's many and varied health benefits, both internally and externally, seem to come from its unique ability to absorb toxins and carry them away or out of the body. Redmond clay is a bentonite clay that is harvested from a unique deposit in central Utah. This clay deposit is unique in that it contains a natural blend of sodium bentonite and calcium bentonite clay. Redmond's bentonite clay has a relatively high pH, generally around 9 to 10, and like other bentonite clays, it has a large surface area, meaning it can absorb like a sponge. It forms a gel when mixed with water, and it has what is known as a high cationic exchange, simply meaning its ions are positively charged, giving clay its ability to draw negatively charged toxins and particles to it like a magnet. This is significant. All of these properties of bentonite clay make it powerfully useful in a variety of applications. Bentonite clay also contains natural minerals such as calcium, magnesium, and iron, which may even provide additional benefits. Bentonite clay is a type of clay available in nature throughout the world, and it has been used as a remedy for many ailments in many cultures. Since ancient times, people groups around the world have used bentonite clay both externally and internally for maintaining body health or treating some diseases. The American Indians recognized its use for natural healing, and legend has it that the medicine men of the Bighorn Mountains of Wyoming used what was considered a miraculous clay called Iwaki, or the mud that heals. Bentonite clay has been called the clay of 1,000 uses. We will look at just a few of these today, as well as scientific studies that verify its use for conditions such as mine. Researchers believe that bentonite clay absorbs toxins by sticking to their molecules or ions. When someone uses it topically on the skin, bentonite clay may have the power to absorb oils and bacteria. The clay's absorbent power may help treat acne breakouts and oily skin. It can also have a calming effect on inflamed breakouts and reduce the risk of pimples and skin infections. Applied topically to bug bites and stings, it is almost miraculous as it draws out the poisons of the bite. And there is perhaps nothing more effective than a clay mask on a burn. To reduce the pain and risk of blistering, run the burn under cool water until the pain subsides or at least diminishes. Then apply the clay mask to the burn. Hydrated clay is naturally cooling, but for even greater cooling effects, especially on a burn, you can keep your clay paste in the refrigerator. Bentonite clay may also be an effective treatment for poison ivy if applied once the area of exposure has been cleansed. And studies show that bentonite clay is also a protective barrier for diaper rash. Not only can it provide soothing relief to the inflamed area, but also provides a protective barrier against bacterial infections such as E. coli. Some commercial face mask products contain bentonite clay because of its clarifying effect on the skin, but you can easily make your own mask or clay poultice at home from the powder. To use topically, all you have to do is mix Redmond's bentonite clay powder with water to form a thick paste. Once mixed with water, the paste can be kept indefinitely in a closed jar or container. Should it dry out, just add a little water to rehydrate it again. The paste can then be applied to the affected area. I have included a link to Redmond's bentonite clay powder in the podcast description. For a facial mask and bug bites or stings, you will want to leave the clay mask on to dry for about 20 minutes to facilitate drawing out the toxins. For a diaper rash, you would want to make a thin paste and put only a thin smear on the area. For burns and poison ivy, you will want to apply the clay paste, then wrap with a clean bandage to keep the clay moist. Of course, for severe burns, bites, or any type of infection, you should seek medical attention, but bentonite clay can be an excellent addition to any treatment to speed healing. In the same way that bentonite clay absorbs toxins when used externally, clay can be a powerful detoxifier when taken internally. By attracting the toxins in the digestive tract like a magnet, as clay leaves the body, it takes the toxic molecules with it. And the scientific studies are there to prove it. During my recovery, I read countless studies on the use of bentonite clay for parasites and other intestinal infections and learned of its powerful and fast-acting properties of ridding the body of these unwanted intruders. One study that I want to share with you today, I found the most interesting, though not directly related to my condition. But I used the information and the treatment protocol to get the results that I experienced so quickly. Over the past decade at least, there has been a rise in such antibiotic-resistant secondary infections such as Clostridium difficile, or C. diff, due to the overuse, though sometimes necessary use, of antibiotics. The protocol then to treat C. diff is more antibiotics, which disrupts the intestinal microbiome even more, resulting in more unwanted side effects. The study that I read reported the use of bentonite clay along with black seed oil and probiotics to treat C. diff in a 2-year-old girl. A few weeks prior, this otherwise healthy little girl had to be aggressively treated, even hospitalized, for a severe staph infection from an abscess that showed up on her buttocks. She was treated with multiple rounds of intravenous antibiotics during her 3-day hospital stay and then sent home on oral clindamycin and a topical antibiotic cream to be continued for 7 days. 5 days after completing her treatment, the little girl began having very frequent watery mucus-containing stools. A return to the pediatrician confirmed a C. diff infection. But concerned that more antibiotics, the common treatment protocol for C. diff, would only worsen her daughter's symptoms, the mother decided to seek alternative treatment. The family consulted a holistic nutrition practitioner who looked for evidence-based alternative treatments for C. diff and the severe diarrhea. The treatment option chosen included bentonite clay as a binder, black seed oil for its antibiotic properties, and a broad-spectrum probiotic to help restore the good gut organisms. The pediatrician agreed to the treatment and recommended its use for 14 days. But the little girl's parents reported that all diarrhea improved within 1 day and was completely resolved in just 3 days with no unwanted side effects from the treatment. The study went on to explain the effectiveness of each of the components of this treatment protocol. According to the research, the study reported that bentonite clay has an antimicrobial effect on drug-resistant pathogens with no toxic side effects. It specifically binds to and neutralizes C. diff protein toxins and has been used to treat both diarrhea and even cholera. And the studies repeatedly show it is immediately effective on treating severe diarrhea with reduction of symptoms in just 1 day and complete resolution in 3 days. Nigella sativa, or black seed oil, is an herbal remedy that has been used for thousands of years. Hundreds of compounds make up black seed oil, but the primary active ingredient is thymoquinone. Thymoquinone is known for its powerful antibiotic properties, effective against a broad range of both aerobic and anaerobic organisms such as C. diff. And an added advantage is that its effectiveness does not seem to be diminished by the high levels of stomach acid. And then probiotics, of course, are living organisms that help restore balance to the gut microbiome, especially after any type of antibiotic treatment. Probiotic organisms actually produce antibiotics as well as lactic acid in our guts that help suppress the growth of pathogenic organisms. And researchers have found that probiotics taken during antibiotic treatment can reduce the risk of developing C. diff by 60%. Well, this study alone was enough to set me on the right path. Although C. diff was most probably not what I was dealing with, other studies pointed to the effectiveness of each of the components in treating similar intestinal issues such as mine. I chose to share this particular story as it spelled out the treatment plan more thoroughly. And the interesting part is that I had all of these items used for this treatment on hand. I had studied the benefits of black seed oil, clay, and of course probiotics over the years, but I had not put it all in perspective until I read this particular study. I started with just 1 dose of clay until I read about this protocol, but I can tell you that 1 drink of clay water, half a teaspoon of Redmond Bentonite Clay, and about a half a cup of water was immediately effective. Then adding the black seed oil, 1 tablespoon daily, and being consistent with my oral probiotics brought amazing relief to the pain, bleeding, and then complete resolution of symptoms in 7 days. The relief was so astounding that I knew I had to share this with you all. Now, I want to reiterate that I am not suggesting that you do not seek medical help or that I am prescribing a treatment protocol. But if my story can help someone who is struggling with such debilitating symptoms as mine, or a mom whose child is getting worse and not better from similar complications, it is worth at least sharing. The studies are out there, and I am certainly a walking testimony. I'll put the link to this one particular study that I cited, as well as a link to the YouTube video on Brad Becker's channel on Redmond Clay. It is an older but very informative presentation. I encourage you all to check out the information for yourselves. And I have also included the link to Brad Becker's site for the Redmond's Bentonite Clay. Necessity is truly the mother of invention, and in my case, maybe discovery. I am so thankful that I found this information and had these remedies right on hand. As always, I hope that by sharing my story might bring help and healing to someone listening. Thank you for listening today. And until next time, this is Sue Becker from Brad Becker's with Sue's Healthy Minutes.
Sue's Healthy Minutes podcast has been a presentation by the Brad Beckers Incorporated located in Woodstock, Georgia. For more information, store hours, and learning opportunities, visit breadbeckers.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast and never miss an episode. Share this with 2 friends who would benefit from this information, and be sure to join us again next week for more of Sue's Healthy Minutes.